CBS 46 News presents Public Affairs on Peach.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Public Affairs on Peach. I'm Gurveer Dinza. This week, we're taking a closer look at sexual harassment. Of course, this issue has received more attention since dozens of women have accused Hollywood producer and studio executive Harvey Weinstein of rape or sexual assault over 4 decades. Some of these women are well known. Others, I think most of us have never heard of. What they've found is strength in numbers, and they've encouraged women and men to come forward and say, "Me too, I'm a victim." That's a hashtag that was launched by actress Alyssa Milano. Now here's a closer look at workplace sexual harassment. The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission didn't make it illegal until 1980. Our research found last year nearly 13,000 sexual harassment charges were filed with the EEOC. Employers paid more than $40 million in claims. And we're going to begin our conversation today with attorney Brad Dozier from Dozier Law Group to offer us his perspective on this. They're coming out of the woodwork. That's all I can say.
They are, but this has been a problem that's decades old. And it is interesting that now there seems to be almost a tipping point. We're seeing a little bit of a paradigm shift. Unfortunately, we're seeing it in a particular industry, but my concern is for people that are working in organizations that are not name brand organizations, and so there wouldn't be the type of media attention garnered when they try to publicize what's going on with them.
So you think that the attention in Hollywood and with, well, for example, Bill O'Reilly, for example, I mean, with Fox News, I mean, Peyton Manning, you're talking about big, huge celebrities. Do you think that that gives people who are working in regular old jobs and regular situations say, you know what, it's okay for me to come forward. It is okay for me to speak up?
Well, we hope so. The biggest problem with sexual harassment we have found is that when people are concerned that coming forward could actually impact their livelihood,
right,
that's got the chilling effect. So if you are working somewhere and you are being harassed by, let's say, your immediate supervisor, and you need your job, coming forward and reporting the harassment could have serious implications to you and your livelihood, and that's been a tremendous concern.
Aren't you protected by law?
You are. But unfortunately, the reality of the situation is that when there is harassment, oftentimes when the victim goes and complains, they can be subjected to retaliation because the person who's being accused of harassment oftentimes wants that person out of the workplace very quickly. And so that can result in an almost immediate dismissal or a series of write-ups and things which can lead to a fairly quick dismissal.
And you know, you bring up a really good point. Sometimes the accuser ends up being the one sort of lambasted and made to look like, quote unquote, the bad guy.
Yeah, one of the first lines of defense in a situation involving workplace harassment is that the harasser almost invariably denies all forms of harassment. And the thing about harassment that's so insidious about it is harassers are like mushrooms. They exist and they thrive in the dark and in the shadows. And because there are often no witnesses to observe the behavior, oftentimes the victim has nothing but his or her word about what has happened. And that becomes a problem.
What's the difference between, some people may say, come on, this is pretty clear. Come on, it was just office flirting. It was just a little flirtation. It wasn't actually sexual harassment. What makes it sexual harassment? Is it in the eyes of the person who is, quote unquote, being harassed? Or do you understand what I'm saying?
It's a common refrain, and that's one of the challenges, that one person's flirtation is another person's harassment. It's sometimes a difficult thing to define, and what makes it even more difficult is harassers typically don't go from 0 to 60 immediately. It tends to be a progression that starts with a benign communication. It may be just a compliment. And then the compliment later turns into breaking the touch barrier in an innocent way. And then that can lead up to sexual overtures, propositions, and then assaults. So typically it's a continuum of things.
Right.
And at what point does it change from being just innocent flirtation to actual, damaging harassment?
So if you're in a situation, very quickly, what do you do? How do you nip it in the bud? Do you keep a paper trail? Do you take notes? What do you do?
That's a great question. When the communication starts to feel like it's harassing, the first thing to do is to try to let the harasser know, I'm not receptive to this. It's making me uncomfortable. I'm not interested in you if he's trying to pursue a relationship. Hopefully that will slow things down. If it doesn't, then most companies have some kind of a documented sexual harassment policy, and you should follow that policy to the letter, because if you fail to do so, that can actually become a legal defense down the road if it becomes actionable.
Brad Dozier, thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us today.
You're very welcome.
All right, when Public Affairs on Peach returns, a study of why so many judges dismiss complaints of sexual harassment. We'll be right back.